Well. I'm just wondering when people are going to start apologizing to Jerry Jones. Because a lot of people were saying this is the same old Jerry Jones. And when we think about George Pickens, Jerry Jones and Brian Schottenheimer are the main reasons why George Pickens is here. And I'm going to tell you why Jerry Jones and Brian Schottenheimer are the main reasons that George Pickens is here. Let's talk Cowboys. We're about to talk facts. Welcome, Cowboy fans and Cowboy haters alike. I'm the G, and I'm the host of Let's Talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. And if you like this video, don't forget at the end to please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know the next time we post another video or go live. And if you haven't become a channel member or subscriber, please do. We have a lot of great things coming in the future. Now let's talk facts. George Pickens. People can say anything they want to, but I am telling you, everyone knows this is an absolute great pickup for the Cowboys, and it's a dangerous pickup for the league. Because when Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens get in sync along with this offense, they are going to be hard to stop. You watch what I tell you, they're going to be hard to stop. And George Pickens, I talked about it today. Man, when you think about championship duos that the Cowboys have had in the past, this seems like a championship level duo. And so you think about in the 90s, Jerry and Jimmy, they did a lot of things together. You know, Jimmy, I think, was more of the architect. But hey, there's no way he could do what he did unless Jerry signed off on it. And so Jimmy and Jerry did some great things together. And one of the things they did is they brought in none other than Alvin Harper in 1991. First round, number 12 draft pick. And while George Pickens isn't quite Alvin Harper, he might be even more explosive than Alvin Harper in a trade for a third rounder we got from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And picking up George Pickens really reminds me of the old Jerry Jones. The Jerry Jones who says sometimes you got to take a few risks. You got to bring in a player like this, like he brought in Charles Haley, like he brought in Deion Sanders. You got to bring in some players like this sometimes when you want to win championships. And when I say a player like this, I want to be very careful because I still say that George Pickens, yes, some of the things he did are very immature, but I was one of the first people I heard saying it. I didn't hear anyone else talking about this. But when you look at the quarterbacks this man played with, you're thinking about playing with the Pittsburgh Steelers and their defense run approach. Yeah, this dude's got a lot of dog in him, and it was hard for him to tame it when he knew he could be performing even better if he'd had a better quarterback. And so now here he is with the Dallas Cowboys with a top 5 All-Pro, runner-up MVP quarterback. And so this reminds me of the old Jerry Jones. And so when Will McClay is asked about how did this thing with George Pickens come to be, let's listen to what he says about Jerry Jones. And then I'm going to tell you something that's also key in here about Brian Schottenheimer. Let's roll it.
How were you guys able to get this deal done to acquire George Pickens? I think even after the draft had concluded, all of us were looking at your roster saying, man, they need to get another player opposite of CeeDee Lamb to sort of complete the offense. And you guys were able to get it done this week.
Yeah, all credit to Jerry and Shotty for pushing it and making sure we stayed on top of it. And after the draft, we continued to go through and look at guys that may be available that we heard were available and got on the phone with a couple of people and, tried to work some things out. And they came to fruition that, we were able to work out the deal with the Steelers.
See, the Pittsburgh Steelers were trying to trade with the Dallas Cowboys on draft day. And Shannon Sharp brought this out on the nightcap. And he talked about the fact that some insiders were saying that a lot of teams were not willing to bring George Pickens in their locker room. And so by that, the Steelers were trying to trade back in the day too. The Cowboys wanted to stick to their draft board, and that's basically what they kept saying. I think the Cowboys knew, even though they took a gamble, that they were going to be able to circle the block and come back and get George Pickens if something didn't work out in the draft. And, Will McClay is saying that some things fell through, I guess, with some other players. And so after all that evaluating, they pretty much came to the conclusion George Pickens is the best option for the Dallas Cowboys. And I love what he said. Jerry Jones and Brian Schottenheimer stayed on top of this. And when this first happened, I said it. I said, this smells like Jerry Jones. This smells like Jerry Jones. It's the kind of move that Jerry Jones would make. And don't get it, don't read too much into Will saying that they looked at other options and they fell through. Yeah, I wonder what those options were. Because in reality, I don't know if the Cowboys could do much better than George Pickens. And I don't mean that as an insult. George Pickens is a number one wide receiver. I don't know where else you're going to get a number one wide receiver unless you're going to pay big money to get Pickens in for less than $4 million. It is an absolute steal. George Pickens is not one of these other players to where we're saying he had a down year. We'll see if we can, get him back up to speed. No, he was still a number one wide receiver. He only played in 14 games. He was still dominating. Yeah, George Pickens is that good. And George Pickens, all he has to do is come here and do what he does best, catch the ball. That's all he has to do. Catch the ball, be a beast. And so I want you to hear the next part. Because this is where I believe Brian Schottenheimer comes in. Jerry Jones is staying on top of this because Jerry Jones knows that George Pickens would be a great wide receiver for us because of his talent. I believe Brian Schottenheimer is going along with this and staying on top of this with Jerry Jones based on what's being said next. Check this out.
Obviously, a player that whets your appetite when you're looking at him from your perspective. But there's also some things, on the field, off the field that are a little troubling at times. I'm sure those conversations have already started with all you guys. But just what's the plan to make sure that this goes the way that you guys want it to go? Because on paper, man, I said this is a win Cowboys all the way. This guy with CD, they're in great shape with, Dak's going to have easy decisions to make. But just what the process from that standpoint of just making sure that this goes the way that you want it to go.
At the end of the day, you have to establish a culture that holds everybody accountable. You got to care about people. I think Shotty's whole kind of process of putting the team together and the way that he's approaching it is, hey, we're going to have open conversation. We're going to have open dialogue. We're going to treat you like men. And then also it's on the player having to grow up, but it's us also having the things in place to ensure that he has an opportunity to receive it, to achieve his full potential.
So you think about this whole issue of Brian Schottenheimer talking about culture. We want the right guys. We want to have a culture. And I was saying this after the first day of the draft, I believe. I was saying, are the Cowboys emphasizing character guys too much? Because it is obvious that there are some players that the Cowboys left off of their draft board because of character issues. But sometimes when you're dealing with character issues, you really got to dig in. And I said this. I said you have to dig in and figure out. So when we're talking about a character issue, are we talking about a person that is fundamentally flawed from the core? Or are we talking about a person that made a mistake? Or are we talking about a person that there are some circumstances that are around that maybe we can correct? Or are we just looking at a person that's just, again, they're just fundamentally bad to the core and they just keep making bad decisions? Well, the reason why you put a culture in, like the Cowboys have put in, and Vach Lombardi, shout out to him, he mentioned this. Vach Lombardi was saying that you don't put this kind of culture together to keep out guys like Pickens. You create a culture like this so that you can bring in a guy like Pickens. And to add to what he said, see, this is what I was talking about. And I didn't say it like that, but what I was saying is when you look at guys and you evaluate them and say, okay, is this really a bad guy? And if you figure out he's not really a bad guy, but maybe there are some bad circumstances. Well, when you create a culture like they've created, you can bring a guy in like this. And where he couldn't thrive in that culture, he thrives in this culture. Because I want you to think about this. How much you bet that George Pickens is already feeling the love being in Dallas? How much you bet he's feeling the love? Brian Schottenheimer wants him here. Brian Schottenheimer has created a culture to where he can come here. Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones wants him here. Front office wants him here. CeeDee Lamb says, no, we are 2 number ones, taking leadership, bringing him under his arm. He wants him here. Dak Prescott wants him here. The team wants him here. How much you bet? We're still going to see some dog in George Pickens. We're still going to see some dog in him. We're still going to see him doing a few things out there on the field and, antagonizing some players, things of that nature. Okay, I'm not mad at that. Dez Bryant did it all the time. But Dez Bryant was able to channel it. And Dez Bryant was able to channel it in ways to where he took it out on the opposing team. And now we got George Pickens. He's going to do the same thing, I believe. In this culture, he's going to do the same thing. I'm telling you, man, this thing with Jerry Jones, this is some of that old Jerry Jones stuff. Take a chance on an elite level player. Brian Schottenheimer, along with Jerry. Hey, we got a culture in place, Jerry. Let's bring him in. We can handle him. We can handle George Pickens. We're going to help him to be the man that he wants to be. We're going to hold him accountable. We're going to help him to understand how to hold people accountable. We're going to have open dialogue, open conversations. And if he acts out in some of the ways he did in Pittsburgh, we're going to confront it head on. Brian Schottenheimer has put this system in place, and I absolutely love it, because I'm telling you, it's one of the things we were lacking over the last 5 years. Man, I'm telling you, George Pickens, this is an absolute great pickup. And unlike a lot of people, I'm going to give Jerry Jones a whole lot of credit for this thing with George Pickens. Love him or hate him, I love Jerry Jones as an owner. Don't really like him much as a GM, but right now, hey man, him and Stephen Jones, boy, they're batting 1,000. I mean, they're batting 1,000, and they're doing what they said they were going to do. They were going to manage the salary cap better, and Stephen Jones said, my goal is to have the best roster in the NFL. Well, they got one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL, and with George Pickens, boy, he makes this one of the best rosters in the NFL, and I don't think the Cowboys are done. But again, y'all tell me what you think. Man, I love this thing with Jerry Jones, boy. This is some of that old Jerry Jones stuff, and I love everything they've been doing since they got Brian Schottenheimer. Y'all tell me what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Until the next time, let's talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. Peace.